today to show you the new features in Wish, or some of the new features. In particular, in this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you the new Service Plan tab that's been added to the client workbook. This is really a powerful new feature I'm pretty sure you're all going to enjoy. And basically, it's for documenting your service plans, such as safety plans, which of course are very important to all of your clients. As well, you can do transition plans, and you can create any type of plan that you like. So it's a documentation tool for the frontline workers. And then on the back end, we can watch it for various statistics. For example, in Ontario, you are required to report the number of individuals who have safety plans, and by watching the safety plans that are developed through this new feature, we'll be able to report that statistically now. So this is a great leap forward, and I'll just jump into it, and I'll take you right to the workbook, and we'll have a look at that. So on this screen here in the demo, I have a client called up, Francine Lebrun, and here's the new tab that I'm talking about. We're calling it Service Plans. As administrator, you set up the codes that are used for that. So under the code maintenance menu that you get when you're logged in as administrator, if you scroll down near the bottom, you'll see you have two new features. You have a service plan codes and one for service plan components. Let's start with the service plan codes. I've already got some set up in here. They're from our demo software, so you'll get a sense of how that happens. But basically, this would be very similar to what you would probably set up at your spot. So I've created a single code to represent safety plans, another code here to TP to represent transition plans, and just for the sake of it, I wanted to create another one which is basically another plan such as housing application. You'll notice that you pick the type here, and the types can be one of either safety plan, transition plan, or other. So I think it would be good practice to only develop a single code for safety plans and a single code for transition plans, because it makes your statistical gathering much simpler. Once you've got these codes set up, what you would do next as administrator is you could set up some default components. You need to set up some component codes, and I've just set up a few in here. So for example, you can see I've set up one that talks to being safe while you're at home, and over in this area I've typed some suggested content, and of course yours will differ as to what you see. I've created one here for safety at work, a blank one for notes, for safety with children, and how to document certain things like this. You see, for each one of these I can create, I don't have to, but I can create a suggested content. Also, for each one of these, I would identify if they are considered a default component of a safety plan and or a transition plan by ticking either one or a combination of these boxes. And you're free to do that as you see fit. As you develop your codes, this will kind of start to take shape for you. Anyway, once you've done that as administrator, what happens then is you will come into our workbook such as this one. I've got our demo loaded up, and I've got Francine Lebrun's workbook on our screen here. And what you do is you create a new plan, and under the new plan, what you'll see is if you click on this let me just step back, make sure I didn't do that too quick. On the service plan tab of the client workbook, you can click on this button that says new plan. When you do, this pop-up screen comes up, and you choose from your list of service plans that you've created. So notice those were the three that we had seen in the prior screen. So I'm going to create a safety plan for Francine Lebrun. Now, once again, probably all of your clients should have a safety plan, so this is a great way to document it. So when I click OK here, the next part is that it gets attached to something. It either gets attached to a current stay if they're in the shelter, or a registered program. If they are not currently in the shelter and they are also not currently registered in a program, you will not be able to create a service plan for them. So you will need to either make sure that they are first intaked into your shelter, or that you've intaked them into a registered program. In this particular case, the client only is currently in the shelter, but if she also had a registered program, it would display on this drop-down list, and you would pick which one you want to attach it to. Now, it's really important to recognize that the plans that are created transcend across all shelter stays and registered programs. So even though it might be attached to her shelter stay, it also applies to any registered program that she's currently enrolled in. And it will, if you are one of our shelters that have more than one shelter running our our companion licenses rather, the plans are also transcend across all of your shelters as well. So one plan does it for everybody, for all of the shelters and all the programs. So in this case, she only has a shelter stay, so I'm going to click on the current stay and attach it to that, and I'm going to click OK here. It then asks me if I'd like to create this service plan with all of the default components. You may recall that I created default components for home and children and at work and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to say yes here, I want to do that. And you'll see what it's done is it's created an SP, which in our language here is a safety plan on this date. And here's all of the components that were the default components that were loaded. Now, as I've just created that, I can come in and I can modify this stuff, so I can make a change to the work component here. So I could just type in whatever I want. Be sure that you have a parking spot that is close to the door and in a well-lit and safe area. Okay, so you can modify it as you see, as I've just done here. As well, maybe I want to take something and maybe something doesn't apply. For example, maybe she doesn't have any children. What I can do is I can just delete this component from her safety plan and it's gone. Okay? Now, what can happen later on is let me log out as administrator. So I'm going to clear that client. I'm going to close the workbook. I'm going to log out as administrator. I'm going to log back in as another worker. So I'm going to go in as Marg Knight. This is our demo data. So, and I'm going to call up, that was Francine Lebrun. So I'm going to call Francine up on our list. And here's Francine, and I'm going to go to her service plans. Now notice the staff team member, or STM, shows who created that plan and specifically the individual components. Now, if another worker comes along, they cannot add to this. You see, I can't type anything, and I'm trying to type, I can't. But what I can do, if I want to add something to this, I can add an additional part here. So for example, under home, let's say I want to add something, I can click new, and I can pick an additional home component, and basically now I can type my extra safety measures here, and you can see I can just type whatever I like, and when I save that, that adds into her current plan, or her service plan, in this case a safety plan, and you notice that the STM column shows the worker and the date that they added that. You can also have another option. So for example, if this particular one here is created by another person, the ADM person in this case, and I want to change it, again, I can't change it, but what I can do is I can copy and replace each individual component in a plan. So when I do this, and I clicked on the copy and replace button here, and I say, yes, I want to replace this component, and you'll see that I can start with what was in there, and you'll notice now I have two documentation components, and one has been struck out, and you see the new one here is below, and I can actually edit this one as I see fit. And that's the way that you can do the plan. So I can make modifications to a plan, and it does not take away what somebody else originally had done. Another important thing to know about all of the service plans is whatever you enter in here is time-stamped on the bottom. It's very light, and it's in this area here, and it shows what date and time that component was added to the plan. It's taken back and adjusted to Greenwich Mean Time, so it takes your current time zone into account. when it does that. Now, furthermore, if I also wanted to create a transition plan for this person, I could. I'm going to show you, I'm going to register her into the transition plan, transition program, for example. Let's start her today. In here, I'm going to pick a referred by. And you're probably familiar with this process, so I'll just save it. You'll see there's our current registration. If I go back to her service plans now, you still see her safety plan. And now if I want to create a transition plan, for example, I can pick up on this transition plan. Again, now I can attach it. She's got a stay and she's also got a registered program. I can attach it to either or. It doesn't really matter which one I attach it to. So I'll just grab that one here. And there's a transition plan. Now we didn't have any default components in here, so I could create individually components as I go along and add it into her plan like that. So you can hopefully see from this short demonstration how you can build different service plans. Predominantly, you definitely want a safety plan, and if you're in Ontario, you have to track transition plans if you're funded under the Transitional Support Program 8779 in Ontario. So you want to definitely sure that you have that as well. But you can create additional codes for any types of plans you want. Once you have a plan like that, for example, I'm going to go back to this client safety plan. You see all of the details. You can print out that plan for the client. You can print it for the client or for your own records. I'll just preview it here. And it asks me if I want to print that out with all of the components that have been replaced, and I can say yes or no. I'll just say yes here so you can see what it looks like. And this is her safety plan. You see the one that was replaced still shows in the documentation, so it's quite a great documentation tool for plans, especially safety plans in that regard. Now on the statistics side, if you are the administrator, you can go in. Let me log out as Marg Knight. I'll log back in now as the administrator. And I can track this. So once again, especially in Ontario, we're asked to report the number of women who have safety plans and the number of women who have transition plans. And very quickly, you would basically do it like this. So for example, I would go into my formula builder and let's call up that code here. If you're familiar with the Ontario statistics, this is what you would see under safety plans. I'll just get rid of that one there. The new way to do these formulas is on your selection list. You would slide down and you now have a new choice in this menu called Service Plans. And if I pick Service Plans, I can then pick the code I'm interested in. So these were the three codes that we had set up as administrator. I'm going to pick the SP for safety plan. And now I can pick either, for example, if I'm 8771, I can pick it if they are in the shelter at the time that they have that. And that will report all of the number of people who have been in the shelter and have had a safety plan during their stay. In the fiscal year, it will only count them once, and that's specifically what you want. And that is the choice there. Other options under this new service plans is you can also report for any registered program that you see here. So in our demo, we have quite a few registered programs, but you can also report if there were a child in shelter and also new. So if we were to choose this one, this would tell us how many new safety plans or service plans with that code we developed in the fiscal year. Now, right now, there's none of the provinces that we happen to work with ask for that, but it wasn't too long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that the Ontario government used to ask that question. So imagine if they ask it again, you'll be able to report that automatically here. One last thing to know is that the service plans are developed on the mom's workbook here. So if the mother has a child, the child is automatically considered to be covered by the service plan that you develop in the mom's workbook. All right, so that means if they're a child in shelter or they're in your child witness program or your outreach counseling or any program like that, and they have a service plan that you need to recognize, you need to add it to the mom's workbook. There is no tab for a service plan in the child's workbook. So the children are automatically assumed to be covered by the service plan. Anyway, that's the new feature dealing with service plans that you're going to see in Bill 3.201 of WISH coming out the first or second week in April. It's almost here. We're really excited about this new feature, and I hope you are too. Thank you.